Right now, somewhere, a heart is racing, palms are sweating, and a brain is flooding itself with chemicals. We call it falling in love. But here's the question almost nobody asks. Did the very first humans, hairy, wild, and living in caves, feel this exact same thing? Or is romantic love a modern invention, like smartphones or breakfast cereal? Some scientists actually believe that for decades. Cavemen, they said, only mated. They never loved. Today we're going to prove that theory wrong, bone by bone, poem by poem. We'll dig through fossils, ancient graves, cave art, and 4,000-year-old love letters. By the end, you'll know exactly how love was born and why it never really changed. So let's go back. Not a few hundred years. Not a few thousand. Millions. Back to a time before language, before fire, before anyone had ever said the words "I love you." Chapter 1. Before love had a name. Around 4 million years ago, our ancestors were small, scared, and mostly worried about being eaten. Love, as we picture it today, is a recent story sitting on top of a much older one. That older story is called pair bonding, and it's not about romance. It's about survival. A human baby is helpless for years. It cannot walk, feed itself, or run from danger. Chimpanzees and bonobos, our closest living relatives, rarely form strong, lasting pair bonds at all. Humans evolved something unusual, a strong pull toward one steady partner, not just fleeting encounters. Raising that baby alone was nearly impossible. Raising it with a partner doubled the odds. So evolution did something clever. It rewarded pairs who stuck together with a powerful feeling. That feeling is the ancestor of what we now call love. Anthropologists studying Homo erectus over 1 million years ago found something surprising in the bones. Injured individuals had survived for years after their injuries. Someone had been feeding and protecting them. That kind of care does not happen by accident. It happens because someone was attached. Attachment, loyalty, devotion, these are the building blocks love was built from. Neanderthals, our close cousins, took this even further. Archaeologists found Neanderthal skeletons buried carefully, arranged with flowers and tools beside them. You do not bury someone gently unless you love them while they were alive. So love, in some raw form, was already here long before modern humans existed. But feeling something and expressing it are two very different skills. Our ancestors had the feeling. What they lacked, for a long time, was the language to say it. So how do you court someone when you cannot whisper sweet nothings in their ear? You use your hands, your body, and whatever the earth hands you instead. Chapter 2. The chemistry behind every crush. Before we talk about gifts and gestures, let's talk about what's actually happening inside the skull. When you feel that dizzy, can't stop thinking about them feeling, a chemical called dopamine is flooding your brain. Dopamine is the same chemical that rewards you for finding food or winning a fight. Evolution simply repurposed an old survival tool and pointed it at another person. That means a caveman falling for someone felt the exact same rush you feel today. Then there's oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, released during touch and closeness. Oxytocin is why holding hands, hugging, or simply sitting close feels so deeply comforting. It floods a mother holding her newborn, and it floods two people falling for each other. Same chemical, two different jobs, both designed to keep humans glued together. Then comes cortisol and adrenaline, the reason your heart pounds before you talk to your crush. That nervous, jittery feeling is not new. It is one of the oldest programs in the human body. Every butterfly in your stomach today is a leftover survival signal from deep prehistory. This is also why heartbreak can steal your appetite or keep you staring at the ceiling all night. And it's why new love can make food taste better and ordinary colors seem strangely brighter. So when scientists once claimed cavemen felt nothing, they were arguing against basic brain chemistry. The chemicals of love are ancient. What changed over time was how humans acted on them. And acting on them meant courtship, the ancient art of trying to impress somebody. Courtship is where things get surprisingly familiar and surprisingly strange all at once. Let's step into the world of prehistoric flirting. Chapter 3. How do you flirt without words? Long before poetry, humans had one universal love language: the gift. Archaeologists have found shell beads over 100,000 years old, pierced and strung like jewelry. These shells came from far-off coastlines, meaning someone traveled, traded, or fought to get them. Why go through all that trouble for a necklace? To give it to someone who mattered. Red ochre, a natural pigment, shows up smeared on skin, tools, and burial sites across continents. Some researchers believe ochre was prehistoric makeup, used to look more attractive to a potential partner. Even 60,000 years ago, humans were already asking, does this make me look good? Ice Age humans also carved bone bracelets and pendants, likely traded as gifts between distant bands. Grooming, picking gently through hair and skin, was another ancient bonding ritual long before hairbrushes existed. Primates groom each other for hours, and early humans very likely groomed partners the very same way. Carved figurines, small statues of curvy female bodies, appear at sites across ancient Europe. Some think they were fertility charms. Others think they were simply prehistoric art about desire. Either way, they prove one thing: attraction was already something worth carving into stone. Music may have played a role too. Bone flutes over 40,000 years old have been unearthed. Imagine a caveman playing a slow tune by firelight, hoping someone nearby was listening. Dancing left no fossils, but cave paintings show groups moving together in rhythmic lines. Group dances were the ancient version of a nightclub, minus the loud music and neon lights. And just like today, showing off your skills was a reliable way to catch someone's eye. A skilled hunter brought home more meat, which meant a safer, better-fed family. So hunting prowess became an ancient version of a flashy car or a fancy job title. Cave art in places like Indonesia even shows scenes some researchers interpret as courtship gatherings. Skill, generosity, and reliability, the same traits people look for in partners today. The packaging has changed completely. The instincts underneath have barely moved at all. Chapter 4. Love, Family, and the Messy Question of Marriage. Once two people bonded, ancient societies quickly built rules around what that bond meant. Early human groups were small, often 30 to 50 people, everyone related somehow. Choosing a partner was never purely private. It affected food sharing, safety, and alliances. This is why anthropologists believe early pairing was part instinct and part practical strategy. Falling for someone and choosing to stay with them were not always the same decision. Sound familiar? Modern people still separate the butterflies from the practical choice of commitment. Some ancient groups practiced what looks like early marriage, a recognized, exclusive partnership. Tying wrists together with woven grass, a custom still echoed in wedding traditions today. Some cultures marked partnership with matching scars, tattoos, or shared ornaments instead. The instinct to publicly announce, "This person belongs with me," is astonishingly old. Other groups practiced more flexible arrangements, with multiple partners across a lifetime. There was no single ancient rulebook. Different tribes built different versions of commitment. Some hunter-gatherer societies studied by anthropologists today still show these same flexible partnership patterns. What stayed constant everywhere, though, was the emotional core: attachment, jealousy, and grief at loss. Which brings us to one of the biggest myths about prehistoric romance. You've seen the cartoon, a caveman clubbing a woman over the head and dragging her by the hair. It's a punchline in movies and comics. It is also almost entirely fictional. There is no solid archaeological evidence that courtship by clubbing was ever a common practice. That image actually comes from a 1914 silent film, not from any dig site. Even Charles Darwin himself wrote about mutual attraction and choice shaping human pairing, not brute force. The film was a comedy, Somehow the joke got mistaken for a scientific fact. Real prehistoric courtship, as we've seen, leaned on gifts, music, skill, and closeness instead. Violence certainly existed in the ancient world, but it was not the blueprint for love. In fact, the opposite pattern shows up again and again in the fossil record. Remember the injured Homo erectus who survived for years? That required patience, not aggression. Caring for a sick partner for years is the opposite of dragging someone by the hair. So let's retire that cartoon for good and look at how ancient humans actually wrote about love. Chapter 5. The oldest love letters ever discovered. Once humans invented writing, roughly 5,000 years ago, they immediately started writing about love. The oldest known love poem comes from ancient Sumer, written on a clay tablet around 1800 BCE. It reads, in part, like a bride speaking tenderly to her husband before their wedding night. The words describe joy, longing, and nervous excitement, feelings any modern couple would recognize instantly. 4,000 years later, that same nervous excitement still shows up before every first date. Ancient Egypt left us an entire genre of love poetry, tender, funny, and surprisingly modern. One Egyptian poem compares a lover's voice to sweet wine that intoxicates without a single sip. Another describes lying awake all night simply because a certain someone crossed their mind. That is, word for word, the plot of every song about a crush ever written. Egyptians also described physical symptoms of love: racing heart, shaking hands, loss of appetite. Doctors at the time actually debated whether lovesickness was a genuine medical condition. In a sense, they weren't wrong. We now know love genuinely activates pain and stress pathways. Ancient India's poetry, especially in early Sanskrit texts, described love as one of life's core pursuits. Love was treated seriously enough to be studied, categorized, and written about for centuries. Ancient Chinese poetry from the Book of Songs, over 2,000 years old, describes longing across distance. One verse imagines a woman gathering wild plants while thinking only of someone far away. In ancient Mesoamerica, Aztec poets wrote verses comparing love to a fragile, precious flower. That same flower symbol appears carved into temple walls beside images of couples embracing. Across Sumer, Egypt, India, and China, separated by thousands of miles, the same story repeats. Different languages, different gods, different clothes, but identical racing hearts and sleepless nights. That kind of consistency does not happen by coincidence. It happens because it's built into us. Love, it turns out, was never invented by any one culture. It was simply discovered everywhere. And where there is love, history shows us, there is also its darker twin, heartbreak. Chapter 6. Jealousy, rivalry, and the pain of losing someone you loved. If love is ancient, so is jealousy, its sharp and uncomfortable shadow. Some prehistoric skeletons show injuries consistent with violent confrontations between rival partners. It's not proof of a pattern, but it does show that competition over partners is very old. Grief, too, left physical traces. Burial sites show bodies placed with extraordinary care and mourning objects. At one Neanderthal site, pollen from flowers was found scattered across a burial, possibly intentionally. Some scientists debate whether the flowers were placed on purpose or blown in by chance. But the debate itself proves something touching. We want our ancestors to have grieved like we do. Egyptian tombs sometimes held two coffins together, husband and wife, meant to remain close forever. Inscriptions on some tombs beg the gods to reunite the couple in the next life. That is not a legal contract. That is heartbreak refusing to accept an ending. Ancient Greek and Roman writers filled entire libraries describing the agony of unreturned love. One famous Roman poet described love as sweet poison, both wound and cure at once. That contradiction, love hurting and healing simultaneously, still confuses people scrolling dating apps today. Heartbreak even shows up physically. Modern scans show a broken heart activates real physical pain centers. So when ancient poets wrote that love could wound like a blade, they were being surprisingly literal. The body has always treated love and pain as close, overlapping neighbors. Modern researcher Helen Fisher scanned the brains of people newly in love and found ancient reward circuits lighting up. The very same circuits, she found, also light up during cocaine addiction, though far gentler and safer. Which means every breakup song ever written taps into a genuinely ancient biological wound. Now let's turn from heartbreak back to celebration, and look at how ancient people courted in groups. Chapter 7. Festivals, Rituals, and the Ancient Art of Showing Off. Across many ancient cultures, seasonal festivals doubled as enormous, community-wide courtship events. Harvest festivals, in particular, brought scattered families together after long seasons of isolation. More people in one place meant more chances to meet someone new, and everyone knew it. Ancient Roman festivals like Lupercalia involved matchmaking games that historians still argue about today. Some later customs from this era eventually blended into what became Valentine's traditions centuries afterward. In parts of ancient Africa, courtship dances involved elaborate body paint, rhythm, and public performance. A skilled dancer wasn't just showing rhythm, they were showing stamina, health, and confidence. In parts of ancient Polynesia, elaborate tattoos told a visual story of status, skill, and eligibility. A potential partner could, quite literally, read someone's life story on their skin. Some Native American nations used courting flutes, playing personal melodies meant only for one intended listener. In ancient Japan, poetry exchanges became a refined, almost strategic form of long-distance flirting. Suitors would send carefully worded poems back and forth for weeks before ever meeting face-to-face. Imagine texting for a month, except every message had to rhyme and reference the moon. Every one of these customs solved the exact same ancient problem. How do I prove I'm worth choosing? Different tools, same underlying question, asked by every generation of humans who ever lived. Which brings us, finally, to today, and a comparison that might surprise you. Chapter 8. From Cave Walls to Phone Screens. Modern dating apps ask you to swipe based on a photo in under 2 seconds. It feels instant and futuristic, but the underlying instinct is not new at all. A shell necklace, red ochre makeup, and a bone flute were all ancient profile pictures. They were signals broadcasting health, skill, and creativity, exactly what a dating profile broadcasts today. A hunter's spear and a resume both say the same thing. I can provide, I am capable. A campfire conversation and a late-night phone call serve the exact same emotional purpose. Even ghosting has an ancient cousin, simply disappearing from camp without an explanation. The heartbreak that followed then was every bit as real as the heartbreak that follows now. What has changed is speed and scale. What has not changed is the wiring underneath. We swiped through cave paintings once. Now we swipe through screens. The urge is identical. So let's return to that question we asked at the very beginning of this video. Did the first humans, hairy and wild, feel the same racing heart you feel today? The bones say yes. The graves say yes. The 4,000-year-old poems say yes. Love was never invented in a modern city or coded into a phone app. It was carried out of Africa, across every continent, inside the chest of every human who ever lived. Every gift, every poem, every nervous glance across a fire was the same ancient signal repeating. So the next time your heart races before a first date, remember who taught it to do that. It wasn't a dating app. It wasn't a movie. It was 100,000 generations of ancestors. Every one of them fell for someone, felt scared, felt hopeful, and somehow made it work. That chain of small, brave moments is the only reason you exist to feel it too. Love did not start with roses or candlelight. It started with survival, and it became everything else. So the story of love is not a straight line from savage to civilized. It was always love. Every culture on every continent eventually invented some version of a wedding ring or braided cord. That surprising agreement, among people who never once met each other, is nature whispering the same instruction everywhere. Even the caveman who got rejected and tried again the very next day is, in a strange way, your ancestor too. So maybe cavemen and modern humans aren't so different after all. Maybe we're the same story, retold. If this journey through prehistoric hearts surprised you, imagine what else ancient humans got right. Thanks for watching. Now go tell someone you love them. They've clearly earned it for a few million years.